Welcome back to We Move Through Stormy Weather, a Fish podcast where we compare and contrast songs and the evolution of their jamming styles throughout the band's career. My name is Ryan Storm, and today I am joined by Greg Knight. A Connecticut native, Greg has spent over a decade immersed in work that centers him at the intersection of music, education, and social justice. As a publicist, Greg represents Goose, Twiddle, Soule Monde, Vintage League Music, and more. Outside of the music industry, Greg directs Turnaround Arts New York City, a Kennedy Center initiative that transforms under-resourced schools through strategic use of the arts. And sometimes he even practices his instruments. Hello, Greg.
Ryan, thank you so much for having me on today.
Thank you so much for being on. I'm really excited to talk some fish with you. Now, for episode 4, we're going to be talking about the first cover on this series. We're going to be doing Sneakin' Sally Through the Alley.
Yes.
Why did you pick this particular song?
I first of all we gotta dive into a cover. Wanted to take the opportunity to be the first one on Stormy Weather to do a cover, and also
Love it.
Sneakin' Sally is just I've never not had a great time at a show where Sally's played. It's just the Robert Palmer classic stuff. I'm a big fan of the Meters also, and I think they were kind of the backing band for the entire album. So definitely just figured, it would be a fun one for both of us.
Absolutely. And tell me a little bit about how you got into fish, when you started seeing them.
Sure. Yeah. So I am 32 years old. So I was in high school in 2004, and my favorite English teacher at the time used to have us do these 20-minute journaling exercises. So we just sit and kind of free write for 20 minutes, and he'd always play music. And one of his top choices was Yem from a live one. And so, I was at the time just starting to learn guitar. I've been playing piano for about 6 years, just really attached to improvisational music, I think, on the whole. And, so I was loving this music we'd listened to during journaling. So one day I asked him, who the band was. He told me all about Fish, and I went home and downloaded a bunch of stuff on LimeWire. And that's when I started listening. And it just so happened to be, it was 04. So I didn't have a chance to ever get to a show and see them then. And, kind of thought, I'd never have a chance to see the band. And so, come 2009, I was a junior in college, and as soon as they announced they were back, I was trying to get to as many shows as possible. And, so now it's been 11 years, just approaching 100 shows. And, I'm happy I've had the opportunity to really dive deep into this community.
Yeah, I'm jealous of that. I'm jealous of that number.
Well, listen, man, you've got plenty of time.
Yes.
It seems like the guys are committed to doing this for a long while. So hopefully,
that's a very good thing. Now,
definitely.
About Sally, Fish playing it, we actually, this will be the first episode where the two key versions that we're discussing are both from 3.0. Greg and I both picked versions from that era. But first, let's talk about, the origins of it. They played it a bunch of times in the 80s, and the last time in the 80s was 5/28/89 at Ian McLean's party.
Mm-hmm.
And then it wasn't played again for 921 shows and was busted out, as I'm sure almost every Fish fan knows, at the legendary 12/30/97 show.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a fantastic version. I love the crowd reaction when they realize they're playing Sally.
Yeah. Actually, funny story about that Ian's farm show, I think it was, in the late 80s. I actually had a cassette recording of that I used to listen to that show in my first car. I was wearing a Fish t-shirt. I was also in high school at the time. I was wearing a Fish t-shirt, and I was in this health food store in the town I grew up in, and this guy, cooking vegan food in the back, older guy, did Dead Tour, came out, and he was like, I don't see a lot of brothers in Fish shirts. I was like, yeah, man, I
Yeah.
love this band. He was like, I got something for you. So he pulls out this huge bag of cassettes that he had collected over the years and just gave them all to me.
Wow.
And Ian's Farm was one of those shows. So I listened to that one a good amount.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. One thing I also I didn't notice about Sally, but after it was brought back on Fish.net, the first 9 versions from 97 to 99 that they played after busting it out are all jam charted. So
Really?
I think they picked the right time to bust it out. You know,
Absolutely.
the
Yeah.
funk. But let's talk about the versions that we picked.
Okay.
Of course. So you picked 11-1-13 from Atlantic City. Why don't you tell me a little bit of why?
Yeah. So that was a special weekend for me. So 2013 was actually my first Halloween run. And I had been, obviously so excited, knowing how legendary Halloween cover shows would be. And so, I went down to the show with 2 of my good friends, Beth and Jamie, all excited to hear a cover album, and we got wingsuited.
Woo!
Yeah, the year of the woo. And so, that was an experience in and of itself. Certainly, love to be part of the collective energy in AC for a Halloween show, but I think we can all agree that wingsuit was a little bit different than what everyone expected for that
Yes,
weekend. And
absolutely.
so, I think although I was so happy to be in AC and be there for Halloween, there was, I think, a little bit of disappointment, certainly, on my end, but I think just in
At
the
least you
air.
got a pretty insane Carini in the third set.
Oh, for
That
sure, for sure. Yeah, I mean, but I think there was a little bit of just little collective
disappointment.
disappointment.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Of
and
course.
so 11-1 was an amazing show. I think that definitely a bit of redemption there on 11-1, but
Yeah. As was
that's
11-2. Those are
as was
some.
11-2.
Yeah.
But yeah, that Sally was the first cover, I believe, just of that.
That run.
That run. And so I think there was like also kind of a collective sigh of relief that Fish would still be playing covers. Um, but it was kind of, it was cool. I had only had tickets for um, the 31st. And so I was staying at the Atlantic Club Casino, which is now closed down at the end of the boardwalk. And so we woke up on the morning of 11-1, and the 3 of us were all like kind of disappointed about wingsuit, and we really wanted to stay for another show. So we didn't have a room booked, we didn't have tickets, we just went down and started gambling at 10 a.m. And all of us won enough money in blackjack to buy tickets for the show that night.
Wow.
So we stuck around. So that was like one of my very few successful gambling stories. We won't go into any of the other ones.
Well, that's you know what? You talk about the positives. Winning enough
Mhm.
money to buy tickets to more Fish shows, it's pretty good.
I can tell you it doesn't work all the time, and I was not successful at Mohegan last year.
You win some, you lose some.
Very true. Very true.
So what about this the Sally Jam stuck out to you?
Okay. So
Besides it being a rare encore jammer.
totally. So number one, and I think I can maybe admit that this is not the best Sally Jam ever played, but mega energetic. So I like I mentioned, just the excitement of it being the first cover of the run was huge, and you could really feel that in the building. That specific weekend, if I do recall correctly, I remember it being a big Page weekend, and so
Oh
Page
yeah.
was absolutely on fire. Specifically, in the Sally Jam, I think a lot of the time, um, Trey launches in to the jam after the second verse, taking the lead, and the guys kind of build around what Trey presents.
Yeah, but Page is
Um,
all over this one.
Page is everywhere. He just completely drove the ship from the
Let me tell
start.
you, his fall 2013 clav tone is my
Yep.
favorite thing ever. It's so nasty.
Absolutely. And so like just right out of the gates, Paige taking it on clav, I think generally kind of yields a different type of jam.
Definitely.
And the jams can get, a little bit darker, a little bit more exploratory than just kind of sitting in that tray based kind of pentatonic and mixolydian.
Yeah.
Um, so immediately kind of what stuck out to me, it wasn't the longest Sally ever, but super
It's like
tight.
10 minutes though, so
It
not
was, yeah, it
bad.
was 10 minutes. Yeah, for sure. It was, but super tight and like, um, big smiles on all the guys' faces. That second set was a whole lot of references to Bush and Kush and Bush after Makasupa.
Yes.
And like, the kind of the fun the guys were having on stage was super tangible, and that carried through the encore as well.
Yeah, yeah, and I loved listening to this one. Like the crowd and the band are all just like everyone was just so dialed in. Sounds like on the recording, and must have been incredible to be there for it.
Absolutely.
Now, let's talk a bit about the version I picked, which is
Okay.
July 18th, 2016, from Bill Graham Civic Auditorium in San Francisco.
Oh yeah.
This one is from the often maligned Summer Tour 2016, which very inconsistent tour in terms of
Sure.
jamming. But I think there was definitely they were playing very well. There was just Big Boat was being introduced,
Oh
so there was
yeah.
a lot going on. But this jam, super type 2 craziness. It's my favorite Sally of all time. And it well, first of all, it is like a lot of things in 2016. It is very John Fishman driven.
Yep.
His drums were especially high in the mix that year.
Yep.
And it's crazy how much he just pushes the band in this version. The
Absolutely.
tempo later in the jam just gets absolutely insane. Like, you don't often hear that in I guess 2016 and
Sure.
more recently.
Sure.
And yeah, there's just some, again, a lot of great crowd energy on this one as well, because a type 2 Sally doesn't come often enough.
Right.
I think, and I have a couple of notes for this one. Holy hell, John Fishman. Tempo with like 7 exclamation points.
Yep. Yep.
I'm just, yeah, I like making notes on these because half of them are serious and half of them are not.
Yeah, it's funny, like I took some notes too, and it literally could be like I just copied your paper. So I think 2016. So for me, definitely 2016 summer gets kind of a bad rap. I was, just personally, that was, I think, since I started seeing Fish, the year that I saw the least summer shows. I only did
Which ones were you at?
Mansfield and Hartford.
I
So
was
I
at
think
Wrigley, so
you're at
I got
Wrigley. Awesome.
yeah, I saw
Yeah.
2 of the good shows that summer.
I mean, Hartford was solid. Mansfield was uh, plagued by sound issues,
Oh
and
yeah, that
like
was the one where the PA went out.
the PA went out. Yeah, so they did kind of make up for it with the tight Hartford show the following night. But that was actually all of the Fish I saw that summer, and it just so happened that that was kind of Goose's first summer that they were starting to hit the road. So I was rolling with them. But as far as 718 goes, like there's nothing like an intimate indoor summer tour show.
Mm.
One of my favorite shows I've ever seen was Knoxville '09. So just like I think one of 2 indoor shows that summer. There's just nothing like a really hot kind of heat of the summer, a bunch of people on tour, really jazzed to be inside with air conditioning and giving it their all.
Yeah.
And 718 I think was the third West Coast leg show after the Gorge.
Yes.
So the band definitely, had some solid energy. They weren't kind of beat down, tired into summer. I think the Sally itself had a whole bunch of momentum rolling in from Simple. And
Yeah.
like you mentioned, uh, Fish was really driving things forward. But Trey, probably 2 minutes into the jam, he starts this theme that really is to me, it was like a launch pad for what Fish responded with, and that was this kind of like descending, wailing hammer on lead that he held for a couple of minutes. It led to a big climax, and Fish driving us forward.
Yeah.
Page kind of starts to follow him with some like muddy low octave seventh chords, and they just pick up the pace into that patient bliss. And
Trey started, while they stayed in B minor for the first big part of the jam, I kept having to double check the key when I was listening to it, because Trey was playing some really uplifting melodies while still staying within the minor key, which sounds really cool. And it's kind of around the 6.5 minute mark where it kind of starts to leave the traditional Sally jam. Let's play a little clip of that part.
Definitely.
So I love the way that sounds, and when Page goes from the clav to the piano, that also adds to the sort of uplifting quality of it. And it's the light and dark kind of thing, where you go from having like that dirty, nasty clav to just the bright piano, and that adds to it. And there's a really, what's cool to me also about this is that they could have ended it. Like there was a great peak at like 8.5 minutes.
Yep.
Still, obviously, I have big peak at 8:35. Fish is still absolutely MVP of this jam.
Yep.
And Trey, kind of deviating from what he was doing a lot that summer. He didn't want to let go of that peak, and he kept going, and he didn't want to, end the jam, which was awesome. And they dropped back into a nice funk groove at around 10 minutes. And Fish just starts like going after it immediately.
Right. And one thing I noticed, when Fish started to pick things up, when I'm there and kind of listening to a jam build that way in a live setting, I always like am itching for Gordon to just drop bass bombs on us, and I know that that's selfish on my part, and it would get really old if that's all he did. But honestly, with the way the jam was going, I think Gordon was really the glue that held it together, in the sense that he showed so much restraint there, and I think kind of just like kept everyone grounded as opposed to
Mm.
diving in, kind of heavily and adding way too much on top of what was going on. Um, but I feel like Gordon just like really, in a way was tastefully restrained.
Yeah, I mean, I do have a note that's in all caps, Mike Phil with a bunch of exclamation points.
Uh-huh.
Sometime after the 10-minute mark. I didn't timestamp it in my notes, but I do remember there's just a pretty spectacular fill from him. And Trey leads, through his soloing. He finds this really nice repeating EDB progression in the jam, and it just, at that point, Fishman just keeps pushing the tempo more and more,
Right.
and it's so cool to listen to because the rest of the band's like, all right, like we're going and we're going, and
Yep.
just keeps getting faster. It's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, when I re-listened to this, I then ended up just listening to the whole second set, and I was like, "Damn, Ryan picked a really, really good Sally."
Thank you.
But I do think also, um, having listened to that second set again, like that Sally was a really like a high point. If you look at the show as a whole.
There's a
Um,
line. There's the line in the second set. That's all you need to
that's
compare
all
it
we need
to.
to know. Exactly. And, so I do think, in a sense, the Sally kind of saved the show for a lot of people. It's like, I could have left the building telling myself, like, that's what I come to Fish for.
Yeah.
More so than a second set
Well,
line.
yeah, you get a big second set anchoring jam, and the rest of the show, kind of is more of a background in cases like this. Like something like I was at 10/27/18
Hmm.
Rosemont, and that show. I mean, you got a fantastic blaze on in the first set, but the No Men in No Man's Land, a huge 25-minute version in the second set, which basically carries the show. Elevates it from an average great like an average show to a great show because of that absolutely
Totally.
incredible jam. So I think you have a similar situation here.
So I know you said you're at Rosemont. So how many shows? I'm just wondering, like, how many shows have you been able to catch total since you've
So
started seeing the band?
yes, so I've seen 7, and interestingly
Okay.
enough, for a resident of Toronto, I've seen 4 of them in Chicago.
Yep. Yep.
But it's because I go to summer camp every year, so
Hmm.
I'm not able to go to summer shows basically.
Got it.
Unless unless like I was lucky enough, Wrigley was 4 days before I left for camp that year.
Yeah.
And I was at the show in Toronto last year, which was 2 days before I went to camp.
Yep.
And then other than that, I was at Blossom 2012, which was the weekend before I went to camp. Rochester 2013, which was in the fall, and nights 2 and 3 of Rosemont 2018.
It's funny you mention it. Like I am a summer camp person too. So yeah, I mean, like even after '09, I had trouble getting to a lot of summer shows because I was at camp. Um, of course, I do benefit from residing in the Northeast,
Yes,
and so
that's a
like
definite advantage.
yeah, fall tours, and of course like now living in New York City, I can take the subway to
MSG's,
shows.
it's
Yeah,
there.
it's my backyard. But yeah, I mean, uh, it's. Did you? I guess you were probably too young to even attempt to go to Toronto 13.
I was at camp for that.
Yeah, at camp. So I had
My little brother saw that was his first show. He
that
was
was his
5.
first show. Okay, cool. Yeah, I had tickets to that show, and I did the SPAC run, the weekend before, and had entirely too much fun at SPAC. Another story for another time, but Vasudo, who was the band comprised of several members of Goose that preceded
That was
Goose,
Rick, Trevor, and Jeff, right?
Rick, Trevor, and Jeff, the occasional appearance by Ben, but mostly Rick, Trevor, Jeff, and a couple others. Vasudo actually played their last show at a house we rented at SPAC in 2013. And so like
Ah,
they played their last show after the last night of Fish, and that was enough for me to say like, okay, I don't need to go to shows for a while. So I sold my Toronto tickets, and that was the year that Toronto show was canceled.
it got postponed, but yeah.
Postponed, right. So I dodged a bullet there. But that said, my show hiatus was not for that long. I was at Jones Beach within a couple of weeks.
Oh, yeah, you're like, oh, I gotta, take a little time off. What?
Yeah,
I can go to a show in a couple of weeks? Okay.
exactly. Yeah, I dove right back in. But yeah, that's cool. I mean, I have been lucky enough to do Fish Mexico, but I would love
Oh,
to
which
do.
years?
I did 2017.
Nice.
So yeah, I went with Coach John Lombardi, and we sat on the beach talking about how maybe in 20 years, if things went right with Goose, they'd be playing Mexico.
Little did you know, 3
Little did
years
I
later.
know. Yeah. Um, so that was pretty cool. But I do, I do want to get to a Canada show, if and when it happens next.
Yeah, I want to get to any show
I hear that. I
with
hear you,
any
man.
band. Um,
So yeah, I mean,
yeah,
go on, Ben.
we, got love a good tangent.
Of
Love a
course,
good tangent.
of course.
Let's talk a little bit more about the version you picked, and let's try to maybe we'll talk about a couple other versions of Sally. But this one,
Totally.
what I love because there aren't many shows in recent years that I can think of that have jamming like this in the encore. You had in February of this year in Mexico the Sand Weekapog Shafty encore, which was pretty cool to see at the end of the show. You don't expect
Yep.
them to kick into Sand at the beginning of the encore.
Right.
And I was very pleasantly surprised at, nice and type 2. And Weekapog was more of like a kind of stop on the way in the middle of the jam,
Right.
which was cool because they just segued into it, hadn't played
Sure.
mics
Sure.
earlier in the show. And I love when they, when they put jams in unexpected places, obviously
Yeah.
the first set as well, but the encore I think is even more of a rare occurrence.
That's a really good point, Ryan, that I didn't really think about is like I don't actually um remember that many encores that I've personally seen in my, show collection that have had some extended jams the way that Sally kind of turned out on 11-1.
Yeah,
Um,
you usually get something like Character Zero, Julius, First Two, Rock and Roll, big closer.
Absolutely. Yeah, especially like, in recent years. I feel like, at the beginning of 3.0, they were taking a few more risks like that and just really like acclimating to being back on stage and jamming stuff out. But, in the past 3 to 4 years, I may have been that guy that was tiptoeing out during the encore.
Oh, I see. I think the opposite. I think they were a lot more hesitant at the beginning of 3.0 in the last few years. Look at the number of first set jams, in 2012 versus 2018 and 19.
True.
2018 we have two of the best jams of the year: the Alpharetta Ghost and the Vegas Mercury, and the Hampton Simple. We're all in the first set.
Very true. Very
So
true.
they're really and even though 2019 didn't have as many crazy long jams in the first set, even you've got stuff like Tube, which doesn't show up in the second set, but the last few years has been jammed out so consistently.
Right.
Um,
Right.
and just generally, a lot of the songs that show up in the first set, if they've got a jam, there's, the quote unquote extra mustard
The
on
extra mustard.
many
That's right.
versions.
Yeah. Well, Dijon. Um, but yeah, I think like, as we're dissecting this, we may be realizing that um, we're looking at Sally, which is very rarely type two,
Yes.
compared to probably the best ever version that you selected. But do you have any? Well, one, have you seen any or many Sallys? And do you
I have
have
not.
you've seen none? Okay.
I have not
Um,
been lucky enough to catch a Sneakin' Sally yet. It's on the list.
okay. Cool. Yeah.
Mike's Groove is at the top of my list, which I still haven't seen
You
somehow.
haven't seen a Mike's yet. Okay.
No,
So give me your top. Yeah, give me like your top five that you haven't seen.
well, my top five songs I haven't seen.
Yeah,
Okay,
that you're
well,
chasing.
Mike's, Week of Pog, Wolfman's, haven't seen.
Wow. Wow.
I know I've had a lot of repeats. I haven't seen. I really want to see Mercury.
Hmm.
Um, any number of Casvet tunes.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
I have a lot of. I have a long list. Let me see if I can find the note. I just have a note on my phone with all of the songs that I'd like to see that I
That you're
haven't seen.
chasing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Slave. I haven't seen
Wow.
Simple. I haven't seen Sense, Rogue, Song I Heard the Ocean Sing. The list goes on. Reba.
Man, we got to get you on tour.
Yeah. Fall. Listen, I'm praying for next fall.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the.
As am I. So I actually I've seen just about everything that I want to see, and I'm very lucky. But the one song that I actually have not seen live is Pebbles and Marbles.
Oh. I mean, yeah, that's obviously on my list too, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Like that is my jam.
I love that
Um,
song.
and I've been like, I've had tickets to shows where I just didn't go and missed it, but I like
And then they
that
played
is
Pebbles.
and they played Pebbles. Like I even last year in Camden,
Oh, you were supposed to go?
I was supposed to go. I went to night one and was caught in some torrential downpours and decided not to have the same experience night two.
Aw.
Because apparently I'm getting soft in my old age, and yeah, I missed it, June 30th.
Oh.
So you know,
And you missed that 20 years later too.
but yeah, I did love that Pebbles during the Beacon Jams. I thought that was
Absolutely. Yeah, with
awesome.
the horns and the strings. Whew.
Yeah, yeah.
Whew.
But yeah, I'm just like I'm excited to just get back and be refished again, and kind
Yes.
of like
I'm
cleanse in
also
that
really
sense.
excited to come see Goose because I really like
Yeah,
I wish I
yeah,
had been into Goose a year ago because then I would have, gone to see them in Buffalo last November.
sure, sure. But a lot. It's there are so many people who are still just hearing of them,
Yeah.
and And the opportunity will come. So did you have a chance to watch Goose?
Oh, yes, I did.
Okay.
Oh, what a
Okay.
show that was.
I don't want to hijack this fish-based podcast for too
No,
long, but
I live for the tangents.
okay, good, great. I'm built on tangents. So, what were your highlights from the show on Friday?
Well, I mean, I love Arcadia is one of my favorite Goose songs, so I was so
Mhm.
happy to see that as the opener. Plus, it was my 10-point pick for Fantasy Goose.
Amazing.
Which I mean, the rest of the show didn't give me anything. Oh
Hmm.
no, just kidding. Earthling or Alien was my 1 point because I didn't think they'd play it again so soon, and I wanted
Yep.
them to play it.
Good
Well,
strategy.
I love Earthling or Alien.
Yep.
The Funk Huvin,
Yep.
that was sweet. I love All I Need. Hot Tea, which is my favorite song.
Awesome.
Yeah,
So
must have
I've
been
heard.
awesome to be on that roof.
Oh my gosh, it was incredible. Certainly, it's 2020 has been a pretty wild year for all of us. But I am so thankful and so lucky to have been able to be in person for some of the stuff that Goose has done. So between Bingo Tour and this, Goosemas, certainly the highlights of my year. Um,
No
and there
kidding.
was there was a whole lot of energy on that rooftop for sure. But yeah, I mean, I can't say they'll be heading to Canada anytime soon, but as soon as they're back on the road, man,
You play Buffalo again. I'm there.
yeah, I've got your ticket, man. You're coming
I'm
with me
there.
for sure.
Sweet.
Um, yeah, so I mean, this, Friday night was certainly incredible, but now I'm kind of looking ahead to a cold, bleak winter and not really knowing
A gooseless winter.
a musicless winter.
Yeah.
Normally at this time of year, I'm
Gearing
closing
up
up
for
work,
the
yeah,
MSG.
and I should be really stressed about where my tickets are, where my seats are, and
I'm just stressed about what they're gonna do for New Year's. What's your prediction?
what who's gonna do
Fish.
fish in general.
Yeah.
So I don't know. So I think, and we can talk more about this. You know, our scene has a tendency to air its grievances when they're not completely happy with what bands are doing, and I feel like Fish is going to be in a unique position where I don't know that what they can provide for listeners is going to be enough or even rival the live setting.
Hmm.
And so that's just me. Like, don't get me wrong, dinner and a movie certainly got me through, the quarantine phase, and I really looked forward to Tuesdays. But I'm just wondering if they re-air a previous show, no matter what it is, if
So
people won't,
my prediction
yeah,
right now is we're gonna get 28th through the 30th 3.0 shows from that date.
uh-huh,
And then the 31st, I'm guessing will be either New Year's 95
95,
because
right,
of the 25th anniversary, or
hmm,
the dream obviously is for it to be Big Cypress,
right,
which I think is extremely unlikely, but I dream. And there's also,
yeah.
the minuscule chance that they play live from the barn or empty MSG.
Sure. Yeah. I would hope, but I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to get too excited. So Big Cypress would be absolutely incredible.
Yeah,
And you were not alive then, right? Which
I
is
was not.
wild.
I was not. I was
Um,
born a month after 1.0 ended.
gotcha. So I remember, watching World News Tonight with my parents on New Year's
Oh,
in '99, and actually seeing, like, I saw Heavy Things.
you heard the
Excuse me.
cheesecake.
I heard the cheesecake.
You
Yes.
heard the cheesecake.
And it's I had no idea what the context was then. But I wonder how my parents would have reacted, if at that time I could have told them I'm going to see this band 100 times.
It's what we all aspire to. Yeah,
Yeah.
I my first watching Fish live experience was Tahoe 2011.
Mhm.
After my dad had gone to Super Bowl earlier in the summer while I was at camp, and I was at home in August, and I was like in bed, and he came into my room. He's like, "Hey, come watch this live stream." So I watched the opener with him, and I'll never forget. After that, I said to him, he was like, "So what do you think?" I was like, "I like it, but I'm never gonna be as obsessed as you."
Yep.
And look where we are
Look
now.
where we are.
I
So,
have far surpassed him.
so yeah. So is that essentially how you got into the band? Is
Yeah, I owe it all to my dad because he's the
okay.
best.
Yep.
He was playing Fish and the Dead, mostly the studio stuff when I was really little.
Hmm.
I brought Europe '72, the box set,
Hmm.
onto my day camp bus for them to play
Awesome.
when I was like 5.
Yep.
um, and I what really got it for me after that Tahoe thing, my dad put the Super Bowl downloads on my iPod, and the Reba from Super Bowl is what made me get it. I was like, whoa, what is this? It's
Yeah.
awesome.
So is your dad? Is he a musician also?
Yes. So, well, we've got my family band, which is my dad, my brother, and I. I
That's
play
right.
keys. My brother
Yep.
plays drums. My dad plays guitar.
Awesome.
And yeah, we're currently I'm working on convincing my brother to play a Goose song or two.
Nice.
We're,
Nice.
we're getting
Well,
there.
I know who we can talk to if he needs any advice on the drum parts. Um, I have I actually have a quasi family band as well.
Oh yeah.
My dad he's 71 and he's retired, and you know, 5 or 6 years ago he picked up the trumpet, and he's
Ooh.
working really hard on it. But it's difficult, I think, at any age. Like after childhood, it's really difficult to pick up a new instrument, especially without kind of a musical base. And so he's making some progress. And my sister plays violin. She's an incredible violinist. My mom sings, and so every year we do the Night Fam Christmas Jam. I believe this
Mm,
will be sixth annual. And
that's
we'll like
awesome.
record a Christmas song and post it on social media on Christmas Day.
I'm
Yeah.
I can't wait to see it.
Oh yeah. So I'll also send you some previous deep cuts so you can see how much
Awesome.
progress we've made.
Awesome. Love to hear it. I do also, speaking of picking up an instrument late, shout out to Peter who picked up keys when he joined Goose, right?
Oh yeah. Oh
And
yeah.
he's already better than me.
So Peter, it's funny actually. I think in 3 days will be the anniversary of his first show with the band.
Mm.
So he's played his first show, Goosemas, in 2017. So I guess that was Goosemas 4. And he really only knew major and minor chords. And so if you go back and listen to, and actually aren't that many of these shows that are publicly available, but the winter tour in early 2018, they did a long run with Spafford and then a bunch of their own shows.
Yeah.
Like you can really hear a clear difference in his proficiency on keys as
I mean,
compared to
I
now.
can hear a clear difference between, last fall and now. It's
Sure,
awesome
sure.
listening to how awesome he is now. Plus, the clav.
Oh my God,
The
the clav.
clav.
Perfect time for the clav to arrive. But
Yes.
I mean, Ryan, I feel like you've got a really strong public profile in terms of being your age and having the knowledge you have of Fish and all this music, really. And you're an
Thank you.
excellent keyboard player. So when are we going to see the Ryan the Ryan Storm solo project? Ryan Storm and the Thunderclap, Ryan Storm and the Lightning,
I
something like
I've
that.
I've got my band. I've got Storm Free. I've got
Storm Free. Okay.
my dad, my brother, and I.
Well, you three, but I mean, is there, are you gonna branch out to non family?
I mean, listen, I'm always down to play with anyone, anytime.
Okay.
I've been collaborating the past couple of weeks on Twitter for Music Mondays
For
with a couple of
Mondays.
guys, which has been fun.
Yep.
But yeah, we'll see.
Okay.
We'll see where it goes.
Good.
Let's tie it back to the theme at hand here.
Tangents, man.
Tangents are fun, and you know what? We're talking about the music. We're staying there, but I want to bring up one of my other favorite versions of Sally, which
Sure.
is November 2nd, 2018,
Yeah.
from Vegas.
Yep.
This one's, it's only 8 minutes, but by God, is this a jam. Absolute swamp nasty funk, led a lot by Page's clav and Mike's like synth bass bombs, which it's just such a cool jam. And there's one part from it where it turns from, you know, just the traditional Sally funk to, you know, dirty
Right.
groove where the crowd absolutely goes wild, and it's awesome. I love listening to it.
Wow. So
And
I
although
haven't
it's pretty
even,
short, but
yeah, I haven't even thought about this show. So yeah, Casbah Vax, Halloween run, correct?
mm-hmm.
Yeah, I haven't even thought about this Sally. That Sally was smoking. I and so it was post Gaiute, right? Which is not, normally
Yes,
the massive energy build that they bring into Sally. But yeah, that was an awesome Sally, and really like a great show. Um,
that show is the perfect Fish show, honestly.
yeah, yeah. I
Like,
mean,
strong first set with a 25-minute jam. Second
yep.
set had fantastic flow with some great jams as well. You know, Fishman vacuum and twerking encore with a
Oh, that's right.
ridiculous good times bad times closer.
Oh
Whew.
my gosh,
Bob Weaver.
in the midst of a pandemic, I forgot about twerking fishmen. Wow, thank you for grounding me there. But yeah, also the disease, the disease was like incredible that night too.
Yes. Yeah, you had
Yeah.
the Oya Como Va, which usually shows up in Twist,
Yep.
showed up in that disease. I've listened to that show so many times. Fall 2018 is my favorite Fish tour of all time, so
Okay.
I know it extremely well.
So if you could attend a Halloween show and they would cover any album that you wanted to
Oh,
hear, what would it be?
oh, 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 that's tough. Oh my God, I don't even know.
Yeah,
What
that's
about you?
that's why I'm asking the questions here. It's hard to say, but one of my favorite albums just ever is Graceland by Paul Simon.
Mm,
Um, and I don't know if Fish being the four piece that they are, can do it justice. But I think it could be, really awesome to hear, and I'd love to hear Mike do some of that bass stuff.
yeah, yeah. It's a great question, honestly. Like, if you could choose, what album for Fish to cover. Um, obviously covering they cover Zeppelin all the time, so doing a
Right.
Zeppelin album would be sweet. Like, you know, uh,
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean,
they
and then
should
the
just officially
classics.
release Dark Side of the Moon. That's my pick.
I would hope so soon, but these guys have got so much in store for us.
I
If
don't need
there's
the
one thing I
Bozeman
realized,
tweezer. I need that.
that's what you need. You need dark side. You need dark side. Yeah, man. I mean, I don't know. I'm consistently wowed by their capacity to innovate, and so I think they'll keep us on our toes.
Yeah, and I honestly, I've wondered for the last couple of years what they originally were planning for Halloween 2018, because Casbah Vax was a result of
Right.
Curveball getting canceled.
Right. Yeah. I don't think we'll ever know. You
No,
know,
I don't think we ever
like
will.
yeah. Or they'll find a way to surprise us at some point soon.
Well, hopefully next Halloween we'll find out what they're gonna do. Because honestly, like, I don't know how they'll possibly be able to top the last few Halloweens, like the Chilling Thrilling, which was incredible,
Yeah.
Ziggy, and then Casper Vax. And I don't know how you top that, but they'll find a way because they're Fish.
I'm glad you liked Chilling Throwing. I know some people who went that were a little bit disappointed with it just because they didn't recognize the album.
Oh, I
Um,
love that. Honestly, I would have loved to. I wasn't. I didn't live stream that show
mhm,
or anything because I was 14 and wasn't staying up until 3 in the morning to
sure.
watch a Fish show from Vegas, which I did do for the 2018 run.
Uh-huh.
um, you know,
Yeah.
friends was
Yeah.
like, "Hey, what are you doing tonight?" I was like, "Oh, Fish is playing in Vegas, so I'll be up until 3 in the morning."
Staying up really late. Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
on Halloween, after the Halloween party I was at, I went back to my room at school and I caught the end of the show because it was, it didn't end until 4 in the morning.
so I've got another question for you. If we're on the subject of
Am I get
yeah,
am
oh
I the
yeah.
guest on the podcast now?
Welcome to We Move Through Stormy Nights with Greg Knight.
Oh.
So if you were to do your own musical costume, and what I mean by that is you dress up as a fish song yourself for a Halloween costume, what song would it be and how?
A song.
Yes.
Oh. I mean, oh. Man, you should have sent me these
I should
questions
have prepped you
earlier, so
beforehand. Yeah,
I could
yeah.
have prepared answers. Um, I don't know. I mean, Down with Disease, I feel like would be an easier one to do.
Yeah.
Um, I could be a tweezer.
Sure.
I could dress up as Piper the Red Worm.
The red worm. Yeah.
That would be. I think that would be a good one. The
So,
Wolfman's brother.
but like, if you were the Wolfman's brother, which is the song you're chasing, as we know, then well, like how would you like how would you actually create a costume?
Couldn't tell you. I
Nor
don't
could
know.
I. Nor could I. I mean, so for this Halloween run in 2013, I had planned on being Julius, and I was like, I'm going to win the costume contest. And
Mm.
so since the shows were in AC, one of the most famous basketball players in the history of the Philadelphia 76ers was Julius Erving. So I like ordered this Julius Erving jersey on Amazon, and he played in the '70s. He had a huge afro, so I ordered this fake fro, and me being the type B fish fan personality that I am, my jersey that I ordered arrived after Halloween, so I wasn't able to like have this
Aw.
costume. But my idea was to have the Julius Erving jersey and somehow fuse it to the music. Um, but instead, I bought a shirt, a light up Superman shirt from somebody on Lot, and I will share that photo with you after our call.
Love it. Love it. Yeah, I really want to see like a Halloween show or a New Year's show or like a big special event like that or like a festival.
Totally.
I've seen a couple of 2-night runs.
Yep.
But yeah, I want to be there for like a 4-night run in the same venue. Like that's the dream.
Totally. I mean,
Excited
I've
for
done
it.
a few, I did, of course, the MSG run, since they're just a short train ride away for me. But then, I would get to Hampton if you have the opportunity to do a weekend, at the
Yeah.
mothership, then totally, totally, totally drop everything and get there. Um, and then SPAC is Fourth of July at SPAC is so much fun.
Yeah, my
I
parents
love
went
it,
back last year.
but I hate the SPAC lawn. And I've actually never done well in lottery at SPAC. I've always been on the lawn, and I've probably seen 20 shows there.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
My dad always ends up with lawns from the lottery, but he has a way of turning them into pavilions somehow by the time the show happens. It's very
Yeah. I
magical.
mean, I'm pretty lot savvy. But if I sometimes I just surrender to the lawn, and
Sometimes it's
supposed to,
got to happen.
yeah, you get enough shows under your belt, and you don't need to have Trey with an eye shot for the whole time, and you can just listen. That works sometimes, but yeah, I've never been lucky there. But I can say, when the next MSG does happen, you've got a place to stay in the city.
Oh, thank you very much. I have to convince my mom basically that, I'm not going to go on vacation with my family. I'm going to go to New York,
You're going to New York.
see Fish.
Yeah, it's tough. My mom's adjusted to
Be
it.
like, wherever we are, I'm flying to New York on the 28th.
So would your mom? So you said your dad's, kind of into the scene. Would your mom go to a show too, or?
Oh yeah, my mom goes to shows with my
she goes
dad
to shows. Okay.
all the time. Yeah, she's not a super fan like us, and
Mhm.
she doesn't like re-listening to a lot of the long jams.
Yep.
But yeah, she goes to shows with my dad every year, and it's great.
Nice. I brought my dad.
I'm praying for them that next summer works out because Eugene is supposed to be for my dad's 50th birthday, which is July 15th.
Okay.
So
nice. Yeah.
They have tickets to those shows, and so fingers crossed.
I'll come celebrate. I brought my dad to Hartford 2013, that fall tour, and
good tweezer.
Great tweezer. It was the day Lou Reed died, actually. So a little bit melancholy.
That was when they opened with Rock and Roll, right?
Yes. Yeah. I think the Good Fluff had that show.
I saw a lot of shows that fall.
I did, yeah. I mean, but it was all in the Northeast. It was so easy. I did those. I did DCU in Worcester. But yeah, my dad was like, just wanted to kind of see what his son had been spending all his time doing. So my dad was, I think he was into it. My direct quote was, "I can see how people get lost in this." But I don't know if it engaged him enough musically because there was not a trumpet player.
Yeah, I recently converted one of my roommates. And he loves them, and we're gonna, when they go back on the road, I'm gonna take him to his first show. But I do want to say, funny that your dad mentions that when my parents and I were in Rosemont in 2018 on the third night, like the last night of the run, we met this couple that was sitting near us who was from like Europe. And they were in Chicago, and the husband had heard of Fish like years before, and like heard like one of their songs, and was like, and they were like, oh, like Fish is playing here, like, and they had no idea what they were getting themselves into,
right?
And it was just so cool to be like, oh, like you're about to find out.
Did they have a good time?
I think so.
Okay.
We didn't see them again after the show, but They seemed like they were ready to have a good time, but it was really funny just to see like this older European couple,
sure,
just in the arena, no idea what they were doing, but yeah, that was cool.
I mean, I've been next to a couple kind of very surprised tourists at shows. One of the early Baker's Dozen shows, I think it was Powdered Night. I was next to like a lady and her daughter from Switzerland. And they were just like, I think the daughter was considering maybe going to college here. And they just were able to snag tickets for a show at the Garden.
That's awesome.
And yeah, I mean, they didn't know at all what they were walking into, though.
And what a show that was.
And what a show that was. So, we didn't stay in touch. But if I were the daughter, I would have been itching to go to school here.
Yeah. Yeah. If I came across from Switzerland, like went into a random concert and it was Powder Night at the Baker's Dozen.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not leaving.
Sign me up. Right. So, yeah, but I can.
There are 8 nights left.
Right.
How do I get tickets?
Yeah. I mean, I can, but I can only imagine, being kind of a tourist walking into a show, what kind of surprise that would be.
Yeah. Well, this has been a fantastic discussion, even though, we didn't talk about Sally for a good portion of the episode, but it was thank you so much for coming on, Greg. This was an absolute pleasure to finally be able to sit down and chat with you.
Ryan, I appreciate you having me on. Next round we'll dig into the actual music, perhaps. But I
like tangents. Way. Tangents are fun.
I love tangents, and I really enjoy talking to you outside of Twitter.
Yes, agreed. And I can't wait to meet you in person at a Fish or Goose show
For
hopefully
sure.
next year.
For
So
sure.
thank you, everybody, for listening to episode 4 of We Move Through Stormy Weather. Hope you have a fantastic day, and we will see you next time.